What we're trying to figure out is how to decode the signals of the brain.
Whether or not there are any human rights, if there's any constitutional protections for something like freedom of thought or mental privacy or cognitive liberty, nothing like that exists yet. I'm giving you the positive use cases because what I don't want the reaction to be is let's ban this.
Welcome to the World Economic Forum, committed to improving the state of the world. Every year they have the Davos Meeting, where a bunch of really important people get together to talk about really important things. We're told that these are the richest men in the world, but the truth is that there are people in the world that make these men look poor, or at very least powerless. The old banking and oil families, for example, the 13 family bloodlines of the Illuminati, or at least part of it, and the people that essentially control the world. Unlike the infamous Bilderberg Group meetings in Bohemian Grove, the Davos meetings are made public. Seems harmless enough, right? Here's their presentation of a little something that's coming out this year.
It's going to make you see the future and understand a wonderful future where we can use brainwaves to fight crime, be more productive, and find love. Let's roll.
You mentally move the cursor to the left and scroll through your brain data over the past few hours. You can see your stress levels rising as the deadline to finish your memo approached, causing a peak in your beta brainwave activity right before an alert popped up, telling you to take a brain break. Your mind starts to wander to the new colleague on your team, whom you know you shouldn't be daydreaming about, given the policy against intra-office romance. But you can't help fantasizing just a little. But then you start to worry that your boss will notice your amorous feelings when she checks your brain activity and shift your attention back to the present. You breathe a sigh of relief when the email she sends you later that day congratulates you on your brain metrics from the past quarter, which have earned you another performance bonus. When you arrive at work the next day, a somber cloud has fallen over the office. Along with emails, text messages, and GPS location data, the government has subpoenaed employees' brainwave data from the past year. They have compelling evidence that one of your coworkers has committed massive wire fraud. Now, they're looking for his co-conspirators. You discover they are looking for synchronized brain activity between your coworker and the people he has been working with. While you know you're innocent of any crime, you've been secretly working with him on a new startup venture. Shaking, you remove your earbuds.
What do you think? Is it a future you're ready for? You may be surprised to learn that it's a future that has already arrived. Everything in that video that you just saw is based on technology that is already here today. Artificial intelligence has enabled advances in decoding brain activity in ways that we never before thought possible. What you think, what you feel, it's all just data. Data that in large patterns can be decoded using artificial intelligence. I'm talking about wearable devices that are like Fitbits for your brain. These are earpods that are launching later this year. Turns out that you can not only tell whether a person is paying attention or their mind is wandering, but you can discriminate between the kinds of things that they're paying attention to. Whether they're doing something like central tasks, like programming, peripheral tasks, like writing documentation, or unrelated tasks, like surfing social media or online browsing. When you combine brainwave activity together with other forms of software and surveillance technology, the power becomes quite precise. This is a haptic scarf that MIT Media Lab has developed, which uses brainwave technology in a responsive way to give a person a little buzz, literally, when their mind starts to wander, to help them refocus and hone their attention. I'm giving you the positive use cases because what I don't want the reaction to be is let's ban this.
Let's go back to the Davos meeting of 2016 to get some more insight.
As scientists began to work more with lawyers using technologies like brain mapping, different ways of scanning the brain and incorporating those into trials, into the legal system, and having this influence basically how social justice is parceled out.
There's a huge government program now to increase measurement technology for neuroscience. As it helps basic research and we can measure the brain better, that will have applications in brain decoding and interpretation of brain function that will be applicable to the law.
What we're trying to figure out is how to decode the signals of the brain.
Anything that is in current conscious awareness can potentially be decoded.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of technology. So we watch a movie, we can reconstruct the movie, right? Which is sort of a poor, dreamlike image of the movie. We can reconstruct the objects and actions in the movie just from your brain. We can reconstruct how you felt about the movie. Did it make you happy? Did it make you sad? Because valence information is available.
Certain forms of mind reading, I think, for the most part today, requires the consent of an individual. But if we could get to the point where either you can have an unwilling suspect or an unwilling individual having their brain decoded in some sense, legal systems don't bake in any presumption that we can do that, and so there's no legal protections that could be afforded to you. And so if you look nationally, internationally, at whether or not there are any human rights, if there's any constitutional protections for something like freedom of thought or mental privacy or cognitive liberty, nothing like that exists yet.
We can build models of various aspects of language, phonetics and syntax and semantics, and then once you have those models, you can actually decode language. Now, of course, the obvious application of that is decoding internal speech. And once you decode internal speech, then you essentially have the sort of worst possible brain decoding device, or best possible, depending on your view. Certainly the most controversial.
There were a few cases that were highly publicized out of India, where a different type of technology was used, where a person's brain essentially was queried, they remained silent, and the responses that their brain provided were used against them for the purposes of criminal conviction.
And personally, I think it's just a matter of time before there will be a portable brain decoding technology that decodes language as fast as you can type with your thumbs on your cell phone.
Wow.
And everyone will wear them because people have shown that they're quite willing to give up privacy for convenience. And then that, I think, brings up a lot of really interesting and scary ethical and privacy
some
issues.
good ones.
Basically sort of the universal brain-machine interface or universal brain-computer interface.
How far away is that?
Well, there's two stages to that. So the minimum would be, for a prototype, something like 10 years.
I think the technology already is there,
Yeah.
not to steal the thoughts from a person's brain, but to enable us to start to decode information in the brain. And so I think we have to think about whether or not the brain is some special place of privacy. Is there some freedom of thought and not just freedom of speech that we need to be actively protecting? Elizabeth Loftus, who's done some really fascinating work looking at planting false memories. She successfully, in a number of her experiments, has planted false memories, including people believing that they've been at Disney World with characters who are not Disney characters.
Many people believe that memory works like a recording device. You just record the information, then you call it up and play it back when you want to answer questions or identify images. But decades of work in psychology has shown that this just isn't true. Our memories are constructive. They're reconstructive. Memory works a little bit more like a Wikipedia page. You can go in there and change it, but so can other people.
Not only can we put information in without blowing up your brain, we can put it in and then you can believe it so sincerely that the problem is you can testify to that effect. And now you're asked to testify as an eyewitness, and you're so convicted about having seen that person commit the crime, even though that person's utterly innocent, that it becomes a planted memory. And so there's some really interesting research that we can plant false memories in the brain.
Who would you trust with access to your thoughts and memories? And you can select from government, police, judges, your doctor, your employer, your spouse, or none of the above. Let's see what the Time poll showed about the sort of the general public's response on this first. If we can bring that up. No? Wow, okay.
One of the emerging areas that's really interesting in law neuroscience is pain detection. And once we understand the circuitries that cause pain, I guess the question is, could we then instill pain and use that in many coercive measures in the legal system as well? So.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's not so much predicting in advance who's going to commit a crime, but after they've committed a crime and been sentenced, you want to know how likely are they to commit a crime again. There's been a lot of work with various demographic factors, and now people are trying to think about adding in neuroimaging to some of it. There is a scientist in the US named Kent Keel who is convinced that he can find a brain signature for psychopathy. If you could figure out who is a psychopath, that affects things like sentencing. But you can also play it forward. About 1%, at least, of American males are thought to be psychopaths. About 30% of American male prisoners are thought to be psychopaths. If you could figure out which 1 out of 100 10-year-old boys is going to turn out to be a psychopath, that raises some really difficult questions about what we would do with it.
My fear is that we won't be able to keep up with the ways in which we can actually start to access the brain. And if we don't keep up, it will be in many senses too late. And I think freedom of thought is probably one of the most essential parts of diversity in society, divergent thinking, creativity, and progress. So that's my biggest fear.
I'm giving you the positive use cases because what I don't want the reaction to be is let's ban this.